Hi, this is Lynn Mayo from RePicture. And today we're going to talk about construction management careers and also transition those careers into business development. We're really excited to have with us Monica Wang. Monica worked in construction management for 7 years, and then she actually transitioned into business development. She's been in business development for the last 6 years. So welcome, Monica.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I want to start with talking about your construction management experience. So how did you choose to go into construction management?
Yeah, so I love infrastructure, and I always have this dream about building large infrastructure projects in poor countries to help out local people. But I had no idea about construction. So when I went to school, in fact, it was a school recruiter. It was a college recruiter. She sold me the big dream. She said, hey, I know you have big dreams. You want to do a lot of things. Here, if you come to work for, this company, here's all the different types of roles you can. Here's the layout. Think about it. So she really sold me the big picture. And that's how I started in construction management, working for a construction firm. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that talk to someone, talk to a mentor or more than one mentors, and ask ton of questions. Ask them, what is it like to work at a company, or I guess I'm doing that now. What's your challenges, and what do you wish you have done differently? Always learn from someone who has been there, and you'll be surprised how many folks will willing to open and grab a coffee and share insight.
No, that's great advice. And that first job, what were you doing in that first job?
I started right out of school as a field engineer on a office building project, building 16-story office building in downtown Washington, D.C. Funny, the first day I started, I show up in my steel-toe boots and hard hat and goggles, and showed up in the field trailer. I looked around and I think to myself, so I guess here I am. Guess what my project manager at a time, she said, welcome. Here's what I want you to do on day one. Here's a set of blueprints. Here's a highlighter. What I want you to do is I want you to walk the floor and take the highlighter, walk as many times as possible. I want you to draw or highlight project progress, what they have installed or what's been installed in certain floors. I said, okay. So that's how I started. I worked on that project as field engineer, worked with over 50 subcontractors, vendors. The company I worked for was a prime contractor. So learned a great deal of really communication skill. Been there, sitting in the project meeting, keeping quiet, observative of everybody's conversation, learn as much as I can, thoroughly enjoying that experience. Now I look back, it's one of the best experiences I've had.
Yeah, it sounds like a great experience, and it sounds like you really get to learn a lot, from the approach your supervisor gave you. You talked about, working as a field engineer. Within construction management, are there other kind of specialties other than field engineer?
Yes, so basically, construction management is all the aspects related to build a project. So that comes, I would call it, for a contractor perspective, a contractor, whether it's prime contractor or subcontractor vendors, they're the ones that actually make it happen, right? Within a contractor, they're a field-based position, they're office-based position. So field-based position, basically project team in project management, anywhere range from project engineers, superintendent, project manager, field personnel to build the physical project. And then back in the office, I call it office-based, project control department, scheduling, cost estimating, proposal, marketing. That's more so roles for office-based. And then besides contractor, there is the consulting engineering company. So that range anywhere from, planner, designer, construction, I'll say experts that provide construction oversight, or even, to landscape architect, more so focusing on the engineering part.
So when I was just Googling for open positions in construction management, and when and there are a lot of different terms that came up. So what I'm hearing is in construction management, you kind of have the people that's mostly in the field, you have the people mostly in the office. And so when I saw things like field engineer, supervisor, project engineer, project managers, those are all typically out in the field at the construction site versus cost estimator is typically in the office.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
great, great. And have you ever worked, you said, talk about your first job as a field engineer. Do you work in any of those other areas?
Yes. So from working in the field, I gradually transitioned to working in the pre-construction department or estimating department in the cost estimator role. Quite different. Basically, as an estimator, you work in front of blueprints and computer and estimate, time, money, materials, and labor, everything required to build a project. A lot of my time was spent on, believe it or not, quantity takeoff and communication with subs and vendors, pricing, scope, negotiation, and also building the cost proposal together. And that's mostly based in the office. Occasionally travel to site visit and client or engineers communication, but most of the time the effort was put to put the cost estimates together.
So that's interesting. So you basically worked as a field engineer out in the construction site, worked as a cost estimator. Do you have any insights about, the difference between what you did day to day or what typically someone that might be trying to decide which of those fields to go into, what they might do differently?
Yeah, I would like to answer by, really, I would suggest get to know yourself, right? Some people like to handle multiple aspects and navigation, building jobs, staying outside, communication with people. And some folks like to, believe it or not, work on project schedules and technology and in front of computer and on that aspect. I really, I would suggest to get to know yourself for your, what's your strength, what's your weakness. I've been through tons of assessments. There are two that I highly recommend. One is called Strength Finder. It's very popular, probably $10. Get it from Amazon. You take Strength Finder, you will get to know, answer a bunch of questions, and you will know your top strength. And at base, from your top strength, you will know what you're good at or what you enjoy doing. There's another assessment that it's more personal for your characteristics and personal traits. That's free. That's called VIA, VIA. Just Google it and it'll give you, top 10 or top 15 top personal traits. Use that as a reference. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that there are all kinds of positions and roles and responsibilities out there, and really have a bigger picture and, have a growth mentality. What you're doing now doesn't mean that you're going to be stuck doing this for, next few years. Always maximize, do the best of you can, add massive value for your task now, and be hungry and keep asking for more and ask, how can I help for the next task? And you're going to get there.
I love that. I haven't heard about kind of using those resources like Strength Finder and I think it said VAI to really kind of think about what what's best suited for you. So I love that idea.
There's one more comment. Parallel positions are not necessarily bad. Just remember that. And a lot of us younger days, we always look at the next step, the next position we want to grow, climb the ladder and whatnot. Lateral development is valuable. Learn as much as you can to accumulate, put on your experience and resume so that you get to see all aspects, different aspects, whether it's in the field, whether it's in the office, you talk to more people, and then you will know. Trust me, you will have a better idea. Hey, I'm better suited for this. This is my passion.
That's good advice. Yeah. So take that first job, but realize you can then, assess better what you actually do enjoy after that first job.
That's correct.
Yeah. So one question for you that I have sometimes is, the people out in the field, we talked about people in the field for the field engineer, the construction site. So is most of your time spent in the trailer, or it's spent, at the actual construction, or what typically happens there?
Oh, I spend most of the time outside in the field. The task I was given at the time, mostly I focus on subcontractor communication. Hey, what's the progress? What's the schedule? What has it been done? Highlighting the blueprints. And I learned tremendous information and knowledge, and just, dealing with people. And there's a quote that I love from Dale Carnegie. He said, when dealing with people, remember you're not dealing with creature of logic, but creatures of emotion. Through all these different vendors, you hear issues, you hear challenges, you hear, you develop solutions together, you motivate each other, and that part of it. And it also, before the elevators was installed, guess what? We were so active, like literally climbed the stairs up and down 16, 17 stories, I don't know, at least 20, 25 times a day. At the end of the day, when the job was done, I realized I was fit, I was healthy, I was running up the stairs to the roof and no problem. So what I'm trying to say is that there are engineers that spend quite a few time in the trailers, that data report, fill out, safety report, progress, and, working on budgets and all that. If you get the opportunity, get outside, talk to people, ask questions. You will learn a great deal.
That's really interesting. So one of the questions I often get from young engineers or comments is they say, I want to work outside. I don't want to work in the office. I want to work in the field. So is construction management, you think, a good career for them?
It's a great career. And I say that not because I'm in this industry. There are so many opportunities. And, you look at, right, what needed the most for this, for the society right now, infrastructure. And I would also offer that if you're trying to decide, hey, what's best, or what industry is best, right? You look at, from an infrastructure standpoint, whether it's, for government type projects or commercial type projects, or, environmental, or even, in the nuclear sector. And there's just tons of opportunities out there. Again, start by asking questions. Hey, what do I really enjoy? If it was 1 year from now, 2 years from now, if that's a, ideal situation, what would I be like? Start by asking these bigger picture questions, and then drill down to, okay, so if I do, oh my God, I love building power plant. I just have this dream. So if you do that, then you start by looking at, okay, what sector? Is it government? Is it commercial? Or is it local projects, international projects? Then by drilling down, what kind of company built that, right? And you start talking to more people, asking questions, what kind of company built this, and what can I get involved, and who can I learn from? So these are, I would say, the bigger picture questions to ask.
That's really interesting advice. Did you travel a lot for your job as construction management?
I didn't travel a whole lot when I was in the cost estimating role. I spent most of the time in the office building estimates, and some of the opportunity that I've received was just to visit site for site visit, site walk. But that really depends. It depends on the areas to the company serve. If it's a regional company, if it's a national company, if it's the role of the cost estimator, or there are some seller doer out there that project manager also serve as cost estimator role. That project manager build their own project. They bid their own job, build their own job. So it really depends. But me personally, when I was in estimating, I didn't travel.
Okay. But it sounds like in construction management, it really depends on your company, whether you're going to travel or not.
That's correct. Yeah, depends on the company, depends on the geography the company serves, depending on, sometimes some company have a traveling team, or some company have more local-based project team. And there's a life balance there, right? For female professionals, I love traveling, but guess what? I was having kids. I got married and was having kids. I couldn't travel that much. And one of the reasons that I moved back to the office is that I need to have a pretty stable schedule so that I can take my kids to daycare. Look at the work-life balance there. But there are folks that doing it all along, and I've known some very successful female professionals in the field engineering that they've had multiple kids. They love that, and so it really depends and up to your preferences, but there are definitely options there.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, it sounds like you can transition from one type of position to another, as your situation changes, whether you're in the field or versus in the office.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part of being in construction management?
Dealing with people. I just love dealing with people and bonding with people and learn. I am extremely curious. I have high curiosity from my via survey.
So I want to move on to your education related construction management. So what classes did you find were most helpful for when you're in construction management?
I personally, believe it or not, love the scheduling, the project planning and scheduling class. I was okay with estimating class at the time. I know that there are so many different classes that universities offer these days. I would suggest that keep a open mind and get to know different aspects of the world in the real world. At first I was like, materials, equipment, that's a little tedious, and right, safety procedures, why? But when I actually get to work for a construction company, I realize every aspect of the knowledge is important. And there are, cases, or there are times then say, hey, you got to work on a little bit of design here. Small case, but wow, I can go back and pull up my textbook. I mean, just little simple calculations. I got to refer to my my textbook. So keep an open mind, and you would have courses that you love. You will have courses that you are okay with, but they're all very helpful.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So even classes like a design class that you might not think a construction manager would do or use, you actually do use it occasionally. So a lot of these different things that you're studying, that students are studying, they potentially could be using it in construction management. What skills do you think were most important for construction management?
I think people skill are so important. I call it soft skill, but people skill. Look at different positions and roles that I had, and at the end of the day, it's a matter of communication. You communicate to get information, to ask questions, you communicate to solve other people's questions, you communicate to help. It all comes down to this people skill. It's so important.
Yeah, it's so important. It's so important for so many different careers. That's interesting, even construction management. Now, Monica, I know you got your master's degree in civil engineering. Do you think it's important for someone who wants to go in construction management to get their master's?
Master's degree is not required to work in engineering or construction management. However, I have seen that along the years, if there are folks that wanted to be focusing on more technical field, right, or say, structural engineering, you want to get more advanced knowledge. There are also, I've seen folks that have an advanced degree that you stand out better against other job applicants, and it's have a higher mark on your resume. Or there are folks that they wanted to advance into the leadership role or senior role. Master's degree is a great avenue, but again, I don't think it's required. And I highly suggest, we get education when we really want it, and not because we feel like it's gonna, add a point to our resume there. Um, and there are folks that work full-time, take online education program so that they get paid, and then they can put real life example and projects into their education. There are different options for that. Really just look at where your needs are.
Okay, interesting. And what do you wish on your first day, when you started that first day, before the lady gave you the highlighting marker to highlight things, what do you wish you had known about construction management on that first day that you didn't know?
Again, I'm going to get back to uh, emotional intelligence skill. That's a fancy word, EI, but really, I wish I had known how to set priorities, how to deal with different types of people with different personalities. I wish I had better communication skill, and as a simple example, I remember when we talk to folks and ask questions, and I wish I had listened more. I wish I asked more powerful questions, and more open-ended questions, and hey, if you had to solve this problem, or how would you deal with, and what do you think? Always listen, and that's one of the biggest lesson I've had, when even now today when I'm in the business development role.
So I love that advice, just to listen more, and that's something we can easily do. So that is great advice. Is there any other advice you have for if you have a student that is interested in getting into construction management? Any other advice for them?
I would say be yourself. Right, it's easy to say that. Right, a lot of time we we see our role model. Oh my, I wanted to be this person. I wanted to be just like that, and and in the project meetings and showcase. And guess what? Be yourself. And for younger folks, there's a term you can Google, a lot of resources out there. It's called influence without authority. I would suggest that folks do a little self-research and and learn that, meaning that it doesn't matter if you're a young engineer, junior person, you can add value by being yourself. You can be persuasive. You can create impact for this construction project. So influence without authority, be yourself, is number one. And the next one I would add is that stay hungry. Don't commit to a specific discipline. I mean, unless just too early in the career. Stay hungry for new information, new ways of doing things. Don't say no at the beginning. I've done that plenty of times. Friend of mine said that, hey, no is a conversation killer. I mean, makes sense to some extent. If people say such and such and then you disagree, guess what? I always teach my kids, I say, hey, if you disagree, just say that, that's really interesting. What makes you think is this, right? You ask, have an open mind. Believe it or not, you would have a new perspectives every time you ask. So that's the two main suggestions, advice that I would offer to share.
That's great advice, and that's good advice no matter what field you're in, right? You can get great advice. And if someone started in a different field, like so we're talking construction management, so they're a civil engineer, but they went to transportation or water or design, how easy do you think it'd be for them to transition into construction management?
I have a close friend of mine. He was in project controls, scheduling. Now he really wanted to get onto a project, but they needed him a lot in the scheduling department. So one of the smart things that he did was that he continued to do a great job in scheduling, and then he made a call and talked to a few project managers or supervisors. Say, hey, look, what can I help? I'm have a busy job here in scheduling, but from your perspective, is there anything you need that I could offer support? So what he did was he was able to get some task related to that project out of scheduling. So he did that, handle it in a great way. And believe it or not, a few months later, he got a call to a project manager and say, hey, look, I got a new project here in this location and I need support. Is there any way that you could help me? So my friend went ahead and talked to his supervisor and, do a company change. He made it happen. Or I've seen folks that say, hey, I love, I just love to, being a designer. Guess what? I'm in construction. So how do I transition from that? I would suggest that once you set an angle, talk to as many people as possible. Find ways so that you could get lateral experience. And you not necessarily, switch that job overnight, but find experience so you can tap into to drive value. That way, when the opportunity comes, you can make the transition.
So say I know that there are a number of women engineers that have, previously done design. They've left the design area to have children. They want to get back to work. Is construction management something that they could maybe consider to get into, even if they didn't previously do construction management?
It depends on the role she's trying to get in. If it's, I would say that, it would be hard to get into a, advanced senior role in construction management. You got to have some stepping stone to transition. So if she's probably looking into construction management, perhaps if there is any opportunity in the CM company that has, areas where she could fulfill from the design side, to can make that transition. And then, once you get into that company, then, you could perhaps looking at, complete switch. But it's kind of hard unless, you just look for a junior role. It's kind of hard to just do a, big switch, big jump, unless, somebody out of referral or friends and contacts that want to hire you.
Yeah, that's good advice. And if you want to get into construction management, if you have other design capabilities, see if you can get a large company that needs the design capabilities, and then you can transition over to that construction management.
Yeah, so my company has a separate department called Technical Services. A group of engineers don't do design, but really are engineers that would like to solve, complex work plan or, how to build this treatment problem. And so, company that have that arm, it's easier to get in and say, hey, I come from a technical background and, I want to offer solutions, but I want to work for a contractor in construction. So it's probably, look for a company that, or perhaps look for a company that does design build, right? Design build, alternative delivery, that type of work that, whether it's the, designer or whether it's a construction firm, they always look for expertise that folks that know design from the technical standpoint. So maybe there was an angle there.
Great. So that's really interesting. So I want to move on to your business development experience, because what's a little unique is you did the construction management for a while, then you moved on to business development. So why did you decide to make that switch?
So it was not an overnight decision. And I worked in the estimating department and managed resources, managed a team, filling cost proposals. Then I got to work on a little bit more on the marketing proposals. I just loved it. I love to personally. I love to write, so I love to do write-ups and sending the right tone and a message and looking at what clients looking for. So once I got a little taste of that marketing proposal side, the company I was working for, it was not a conglomerate big company. Everybody was very multiple hats. So I offered, I said, hey, can I offer track some of the status of opportunities? And so I started doing business development a little bit as part of my day job. And then I fell in love with doing that. I got to work with clients, work on strategic planning, bigger picture planning, understand the industry. So I just offered up to my boss. I say, hey, any chance that I could transition out of it? I like to work on areas where applies a lot of the people skill. And also during that time, I went back to business school for my MBA. I went for a executive MBA program part-time. It was a global program. Loved it. Every few months we traveled to different countries and get to, again, work with different people and all that. So got the opportunity to do business development. And then finally, after a couple of years, I said, this is it. this is my calling. I want to do it full time. That's how my transition into PD.
That's great. It sounds like it was a gradual transition, but did you find any challenge to go from a technical position to a less technical position?
Not for me. I personally love the people-oriented environment. And even when back in the estimating, you got to deal with different people all the time. Deal with other estimators, deal with vendors, subcontractors, you deal with client, ask questions, designers, and you deal with a team, how to put this together, deal with marketing folks. And just along the way, I feel that really spend some time, focus on building the communication people skill. That's going to go a long way for everybody.